Fanboy Modeling School. I'm so tired and painful.
Hello and welcome to the Fanboy Modeling School. I am the Fat Mantis, now in HD, and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Steve, real name no gimmicks, also in HD, lo-fi, hi-fi fidelity.
That was awesome, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. A triumphant return of the Fanboy Modeling School, brother.
It's sad. It's sad that the thing that is bringing us back together is that we have to announce all this death and misery.
It really is a sad time, man. Before we get to the death and misery, man, just shout out to you, brother. Host, owner, proprietor of Riz Radio, where you can catch Fanboy Modeling School. Mic check, burn your degree across all social media platforms, rizradio.com, Riz Radio Live 365. Okay, I did it. I did it.
That was amazing. Thank you very much.
No problem. Life comes at you fast, man. I coined that phrase and stole it, and I'm reappropriating it because a moron by the name of Amanda Sills, and she is a moron. She's a highly educated, intelligent moron. You can be both those things at the same time. Those were the words she shared when Charlie Kirk on September 10th was assassinated on a college campus in Utah. She was doing a live stream on her IG, still licking her wounds or doing a victory lap, depending on your perspective on this, on her Jubilee appearance. And when it was determined that he had passed away from his wounds, Charlie Kirk, one of the people on her stream must have alerted her, and she was, dang, he died? Life comes at you fast, B. And then she went on to say, I have no point of reference to be empathetic to Charlie Kirk because I have no frame of reference to his worldview. He was alluding to that they thought entirely different. So forget about humanity and being empathetic. She couldn't. Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about the non-Christian view of the world, is that they think that they need, or to them, they need to agree with somebody or have some sort of similarity with them in order to have simple empathy for them. And even in the Christian mindset, we are to weep for our enemies.
Man, it's interesting, right? I'm sure as you've had and other people who are Christians have had conversations about who Charlie Kirk was as a person, who he was, because I don't know him personally. I only know Charlie Kirk as the leader of Turning Point, the creator of Turning Point, obviously from doing his campus ministry, and that's what I'm referring to it as, campus ministry and outreach, and from making appearances on podcasts like the whatever podcast, right? That's the actual name of this podcast, by the way. Charlie Kirk was a moderate conservative. He was a believer, and he was assassinated for being a Christian and espousing Christian views. I've had a lot of conversations or been a part or avoided conversations outright with people saying he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's transphobic. And I challenge anyone to provide clips on any of those things, because I went back and did my due diligence and looked for the racist clips. I'm a black man, you're a black man. So this would be the immediate thing that I would go back and look for. And for the life of me, I cannot find these clips.
So check this out. One of my trolls, I did the same thing to them. I said, if you're going to say this about Charlie Kirk, show me the money, right? And so what she did is she sent me a video. And so what it is, it's a compilation video of clips of him saying two phrases that he says in his argument but it's literally clipped right at the start of the phrase and right at the end. And so what do we all know about when people take the Bible out of context? What do they like to do?
Yeah.
They like to not talk, they like to not read the parts before their quote and not read the parts after so that they can misconstrue one line in the Bible, a very common thing. And so what it is, the lines that are being uttered are, right? And you probably know this one. He says, when I see a black pilot, I wonder if he earned the job or he's a DEI hire. The other one was a doctor who's a black lesbian. I wonder if she earned her job, right? And so these things are used over and over again, these cuts, these smash cuts. However, if you guys watch the full things of any of those interviews, what he is saying is, this is what DEI has done to our society, that it makes one think like that.
Yeah.
And he's not saying it's what he believes.
Right.
So I wholeheartedly defend him on whatever accusation that is in, but that's a common one that's going around. I'm surprised you haven't been hit with that one yet.
I don't have to go far. My algorithm is a treasure trove of misinformation. And it's usually me weeding my way through misinformation to find the truth. You know why? Because I'm a sadist, right? I like to do this to myself. I rage watch things. I doom scroll. I do the thing. I do all the things, right? And I'm just not scared to expose myself to the most deplorable side of the internet to get to the bottom of the truth because I want to get the research in. Another one, a good friend of ours, a mutual friend, I won't shout his name out here. I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, but he was racist, man. He used the C word. I was like, what are you talking about? He used the C word. He was referring to the infamous debate where it's probably the angriest I've ever seen Charlie Kirk get, where he's on a panel, he's up on stage, and he's arguing with Cenk from the Young Turtle.
Okay.
And he says his name, and people assumed he said Cenk. But in actuality,
he's mispronouncing a hard to pronounce name. Even I don't know really know. I often call him Chung.
If you watch the video, you will see literally Cenk is in the audience, and that's who he's arguing with, and he is not calling him the other word.
Obviously, it doesn't even make any sense to call a Turkish man that. What it is, a lot of mental gymnastics and a lot of effort is being put in to try to make this man look like a fascist, a racist, various phobes. Yeah, no, it is an utter shame that they're dragging this good man's name through the mud. Now, obviously, he had some opinions about the trans movement and the ideals about transgenderness, but ultimately, he had a Christian attitude and a spirit of love for everybody. And he was willing to talk with and treat everybody like a human.
Yes. Now, so let's do this, right? Let me tell you what I was doing when this news broke, right? I'm in a text group with a couple of friends, and we're texting back and forth, and I forget what the original text was about, and we're just having a good time, right? I'm at work, and I'm helping the customer. I'm in the text thread, and then one of my friends says, "Oh shoot, Charlie Kirk has been shot." And then it didn't register what they were saying. I thought it was a part of the joke we were going through, right? Finally, I Google it, and I'm like, "Oh man, he has been shot." And then everyone at my work starts buzzing, and there are a few conservative guys at my work, right? So it starts buzzing, it starts going around, and then eventually I see the clip of ultimately his last few seconds of life, which is horrific, right?
I did not put myself through that.
Yeah, it's etched in my memory, but again, I'm anesthetized to a lot of this stuff, and that's just in there. So I see it, and then immediately the reels start popping up of the old guy that they arrested. That cup is comically huge. For the listening audience, man, just has the biggest cup.
I do everything big, guys. I do everything big. You heard that, ladies. You heard it right.
Then the footage breaks of the elderly gentleman who they arrested first, or they apprehended, or took into custody. And then other footage started popping out. And then finally they announced that he was dead, that he had in fact passed. And yeah, man, it just goes from there. And then I start like settling back into it. And I have some stuff that I want to repent of and I'm ashamed of, man. Instead of in moments, in conversations at work, leaning into the fact of, hey, man, this dude is a Christian. I soft-footed it. I was like, I don't know, man. He didn't deserve to die, even if you had a difference of opinion, that type of stuff. But then it dawned on me, man. I was like, who am I doing this for? Who am I qualifying this for? Political assassination is wrong. Full period. Stop.
Absolutely.
Now, there's some people that should be politically assassinated, right? Because they're monsters. But that's different, right? We're talking about someone being assassinated for espousing his beliefs.
Yeah, yeah. Like and just to back up my man Steve, what I think he's trying to say is he's talking about dictators of countries who do ethnic
Exactly.
cleansing and stuff. He's not talking about a dude who hangs out on college campuses and hates his opinion.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And we're going to get into some other stuff later on about who people think the comparison of Charlie Kirk is, right? Because obviously, all right, why don't I just go there now, man? A lot of people come out after the death to say things, right? Nick Fuentes, who I'm not a fan of, but I always listen to his stuff because I want to know what's going on in that part of the internet. I like to make sure I know what's going on. That's how you get got. You don't know what's going on. I would often go to rival hoods back in the day and just chill by the corner store. And
Yeah, no, I've always respected. Yeah, basically, you're the Black Charlie Kirk. I couldn't do it. Like you have literally said, you've hung out with skinheads just to try to understand them. And even though I look like a skinhead, I wouldn't be able to hang out with them.
So I'm listening to Nick Fuentes, who later the next day he waited, he canceled the show. The next day he came out and had some kind words to say about Charlie Kirk. He did acknowledge, he's like, we were adversaries. Charlie Kirk never had a nice thing to say about me, but I'm going to take the time to say some nice things about him. And it just dawned on me, Mantis, man, that this was a political assassination for a young and upcoming man whose only crime was to say, I disagree. Right? I disagree. There were no policies put into play that impacted people of color negatively. There were no policies put into play that impacted the trans community negatively. He didn't have that ability. He didn't have that power.
Right. He was not a politician in any way, nor did he want to be one.
He wanted to run the RNC. And it's funny because Candace Owens released a very heartfelt video. He's the one that put her on, hired her for Turning Point USA. But really, he was, as Nick Fuentes says, he was the moderate. He was out there evangelizing people, trying to win them to Christ. Now, let me ask you a question. You're much more mature in the faith than I am. Do you think that he leaned too heavy in politics while espousing the truth of the gospel?
At the risk of exposing us both, right? And so this is something that happens all the time on this podcast, right? And so we are Christians who live in this world, and a lot of the things on this podcast are enjoying this world, right? And so we often have this struggle where we're like, at what point am I a Christian? At what point am I a regular materialist enjoying the physical world?
Right.
Where do we draw the line? When is a joke a little too far? When is all these things? And so this is really hard for any Christian to walk that line, right? Unfortunately, here's what it is. He was a Christian. I do believe that his movement was more of a political movement than a Christian one. He was personally a Christian, but the thing he was trying to diffuse as a Christian was political strife. You know what I mean? And I don't think he would have been able to make a difference in the world if he didn't address the elephant in the room, which is how politics are tearing us apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well said, man. Because when you look at it, man, the saddest part about this is that, all right, let me give you an example of his character, right? I've seen a lot of red pill dudes go on the whatever podcast, the debate, the OnlyFans girls, the friggin' the feminists, the raving mad feminists. There's always one. She's just full of love. Charlie Kirk went on there, and at the end of his time on the podcast, he shared the gospel with the OnlyFans girls.
Okay.
And they were all like, you're possibly the nicest. You are the nicest person that's ever come up here. And he was like, it's not me. It's the Holy Spirit. He was like, if it was left up to me, I would be screaming and yelling here on this podcast. But he's like, I just want you to know that Jesus loves you and he has a better plan for your life. He had a better plan for my life. And he changed me completely. He can change you as well. And there are just so many clips like that on the internet that I think it gives us enough of structure to see where he was. Yes, when you're in the realm of politics, after about 6 hours or so, you're probably going to start saying some less than Christian things where it's just, bro, didn't I just go over this with you? Didn't I tell you? Like, I've been there, man. Like, when we used to do podcasts, man, and I would be sitting up here with you, bro, and I'd be the whole subjective. I was ready to die on this hill, man. When we had a much more liberal audience, it was like, there is no subjective truth. I don't care how you remix it. I don't care what your mother told you to make you feel good. There is reality, and then there's what you're trying to create. And I think why I had hit on to that so much, especially being lapsed in my faith at the time, was I refused to take a step back on this, right? I can affirm you by calling you the name you want me to call you, but that does not mean I have to agree with you. And what you're doing is trying to transpose your reality onto me when we both share common space in the same reality. And I'm not giving up an inch when it comes to that. I'm gonna try to do that in love, but I can see where there were moments where Charlie Kirk was just like the DEI thing, right? At a certain point, the reality is, yes, DEI and discussing it can become just toxic and venomous. And you're trying to tell people, man, hey, I don't hate black people. I'm saying that there's something flawed in the system of hiring someone based on a quota and not based on who has the most merit to do the job. Now, if we need to deconstruct the entire system and go back to square one, that's what we need to do. But we can't embrace one form of evil to try to deal away with another evil. That wasn't the original plan of affirmative action. Affirmative action was initially implemented to give black people and other people of color an opportunity with the assumption that they had earned that opportunity. What it became was a gateway to allow so many other worldviews into the door. And that's what the civil rights movement had become. And that's another clip that people like to send around, his view on the civil rights movement, when in actuality, he says it pretty plainly. He's like, we need to change the language on that because it was initially to deal with this issue. And then because of the broad language, it allowed so many other issues in. So it's rough, man. I could see how you would, as a Christian, you up on a panel, you got some blue-haired psychos screaming. And then you finally just go, you know what? Maybe if your dad taught you how to fight, you wouldn't be sitting over there in a dress right now. And you say something wild.
I mean, once again, we are not saying that trans people can't fight. I'm sure plenty of trans people can fight. But it's funny. Another thing we haven't mentioned about this episode right here on Riz Radio, Fanboy Modeling School, is that we are not in front of a live studio audience, aka a chat. This isn't a live stream. This is pre-recorded.
Right.
We thought that, like, to truly capture the emotions of what's going on, we just want to be alone in the studio. However, I do want to read some occasional thoughts from the mailbags of people who wanted to share some ideas on this podcast. And our first one comes from Logan. He's known in the chat usually as Lo. He's a friend of the show.
Right.
And he said his death was the first sense of real loss I have felt that wasn't someone I knew personally. Wow. Kirk's death should be a wake-up call to just how dire the state of our country really is. When a man that is dedicated to faith, to freedom, and to dialogue can be gunned down for his ideas, it means no one is safe. The line has been crossed. Our response to that will determine the future.
Ooh, beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. Shout out to Logan, man. Shout out to Lo. It leads me to a point that people were making. I just want to throw this out there for you. So neither you or I were alive when Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or any of the Kennedys were assassinated, right? And I'm sure at the time I was just talking to my mom about this, who was alive for all of that stuff. It must have seemed like the world was coming to an end. You know what's crazy, man? We always talk about the pendulum swinging from left to, but here we are. I never thought I would say that on the right side, the pendulum is swung so far that it is the espouser of ideas and unity on the Republican side being gunned down by what is allegedly someone who's been radicalized by left-leaning or left views. What do you think about that?
Here's the thing. And so I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, you're crazy, Mantis, you're making crazy connections. Can we face it that, like, it's the leftists have ties to revolutionary ideas, And typically it is the revolutionaries who are gunning people down. It's not the other side. It's true the other side is usually most likely associated with cops in the military, but it's usually the other side that says, hey, let's burn down a building, let's gun someone down we don't like, let's start a revolution. And so how do you have civil conversation with somebody who wants to burn everything down? What if the thing they want to burn down is the place you live? The place you go to school at.
Right. Yeah.
How do we work with this? And we haven't addressed it yet. We all know it happened, and so it's time. The people who were celebrating his death, which is the most inhumane thing I've ever seen in my life. It's my Twitter feed is just filled with it. Yeah. Or you know what it is? It's people reporting on these people. But I've seen a lot of these TikToks, and the fact that these people can even make those jokes, let alone film them and put them on the internet, is wild to me.
That's crazy, man. That is wild, man. And I've never seen a side that's pushing for revolution so much, but is ill-equipped to deal with the reality of what revolution will look like. You've heard me say it on Dope Dynamics. I'm like, hey, the person screaming for revolution typically isn't the person on front lines. They're a recruiter, and they expect you to be on the front line. Right. You will be the one fighting the war of ideas in the flesh. And you know what's so bugged out to me, man, is that these people who espouse and say these words and these things, it's the right is guilty of it too. Like the Groypers, all these people, these internet keyboard warriors who are just stoking the flames. They don't think that there are consequences for this, man. And I just want to take everyone back just a little bit to how real it can get so quickly. You remember the guy that went to Buffalo and shot up an entire place full of black people?
Yeah.
Oh, even more. The guy who shot up all the black parishioners in that church. Both of those guys had letters, and they both felt like they were responding to an evil encroaching upon them. And I just want a leftist audience to listen to me right now. Could it be that your celebration on X and the constant referral to someone as a fascist has radicalized someone in that group to believe, man, imminent evil, I need to do something. I need to stop this. And here you are cheering them on.
And you know what it is? Amen to what you just said, and amen for you putting the light on. And it is true. My statements just previously didn't factor in that, yes, there are right-wing extremists who do crazy things, including violence. Absolutely, that is happening. The thing that is disconcerting to me is that I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, on the right side, the violence that happens is condemned.
Yes.
And on the left, there's like a smirk where they're kind of like, yeah, that's just wrong. And you see them smirking in a way where they're advocating for it. They're winking at their people.
Yeah. There's a equivocation, the whole 9 yards, right? Like we touched on it, the entire campaign of him being racist, right? This was the deflection to use to say, hey, you know what? He deserved it. He deserved it. But in actuality, when you get down to it, so you're making an accusation against someone. Let's say that I agree to that, right? That a person who's a racist and a transphobe deserves to be gunned down in public. That's a hefty accusation you're making. You should probably make sure it's true.
And that's the thing. A lot of these people aren't even checking. They're being told, but they probably haven't seen a single one of his videos or engaged with any of his content. The people who are so adamantly saying that he's some sort of monster.
And then we'll get to it eventually. The actual shooter, I can't tell you. And this is where the right is not. Some people on the right aren't doing a good job of this. I don't think everyone who has a mic is qualified to speak on certain aspects of the case because you discredit it. Not maybe in an illegal sense, like your podcast is not going to be used in the court of law, but in the court of opinion, because you're the one saying it. People are like, I can't believe this. This guy is just a right-wing talking puppet. Here's the crazy thing, man. Like, I have people in close proximity of me who believe that the shooter is a registered Republican, a Trump supporter, and killed Charlie Kirk because he wasn't Christian enough. End quote.
Okay. So yes, there are people saying that. The super troll that I told you about, who sent me that video and all those clips, said the same thing. The mental gymnastics that it requires to come to this belief is also wild. And I feel that the left in general, they almost train at mental gymnastics.
Right.
There's something about their philosophy. Sometimes when things don't make sense, and sometimes you sit down with them and you go, can you explain this to me? How do you have this philosophy? And they can't do it because it doesn't even make sense to themselves, but they've been trained to say yes to it.
Yeah.
We all know what I'm mainly talking about, right? There's certain things that defy science and defy logic and defy and stuff like that, or they repeat talking points that don't make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so at that point, they are now trained to just follow the cult as it has spoken and not question that.
Yeah.
But and in terms of like research, so it would look like a gunman, and more is unfolding or whatever. But like it would appear that the gunman was in a relationship with someone who identifies as trans and a furry. And I'm sorry to laugh. This is a very serious conversation, and I'm trying not to laugh. And unfortunately, when I heard that on the news and somebody said they identify as a furry, I couldn't help but crack up.
Yeah, it's because it's the community you would expect the least violence from. It's furries, and now this. But you know what it's new? It's interesting, man. Going back to the people celebrating and lauding, you were talking about the cult and the talking points, right? Every person that celebrated it or will celebrate it on Instagram, even the young lady that was on the college campus saying, "Oh, your homie's dead, one in the head, blah blah blah." Each one of those people has believed the script about this gentleman, as opposed to doing the hard work of going, "Hey, let me go look into this, right? Let me go look into this and see if he's actually guilty of the accusations." And that's the least you can do. The very least is, do you look into the accusations about this person? And in regards to people celebrating it, now there have been some consequences for people celebrating it. Apparently, corporations that you work for or small businesses, either out of fear or maybe out of some altruistic reason, have responded by firing people. In fact, there's a dude on TikTok that's straight up exposing people for the things they say about Charlie Kirk's death to their jobs.
So we need more of this. And this isn't about revenge. I'm not talking about revenge right now. What I am talking about is we need to shame and cancel anybody who is praising violence. We cannot have them in our society. That is basically my opinion of that. And I understand everyone in some level has some sort of belief where they think violence is justifiable. This sort of thing should not be okay. It should not be okay that people are glorifying and dancing on the grave of somebody.
Yeah, and you know what? You guys won. You convinced me. Cancel culture is not cancel culture. It's consequence culture. I just tried on for size, right? Let's see.
Okay, yeah, let's reverse that. Let's get these people their consequences. I love it.
It's sad, man, because some of my favorite creators are weighing in on this, and yeah, they're not informed. And I hate that talking point of, you just do your research, because usually I associate that to the crazy person. If you would just go on Reddit and do your research, you would find out that I'm weird, a non-person saying that. But in this instance, you don't have to do much research. Some of my more watched content creators of the Black persuasion are really leaning into this, that Charlie Kirk was a racist, and they're espousing the same things, and they're not even really getting to the root of it. In fact, a couple of affluent Black pastors outright have just come out and said it in front of their congregation, man. They said the thing in front of their congregation on the Lord's Day.
And you know what's funny is that because I attend a church where our population it's almost 50-50 between conservatives and liberals. And I live in an area where people would think it's just filled with liberals, but it's actually not. There's like a mix in this area. And however, we have a bridge pastor. He's not our usual pastor. He's just between until we get a new one. And he has sometimes espoused some of the most politically charged leftist ideas up on there. Occasionally they pop out. He'll pull out a gem, and I'm like, damn. Way to ruin my day, bro. And I was actually scared. I was scared to what I was walking into on Sunday. I had an actual fear that I was able to verbalize, because I told my family before I went to church, and I was like, I'm nervous about the sermon, because honestly, if he had said something crazy like that, I probably would have argued with him. I might even have stood up and argued with him. But however, the Spirit was in there with us, man, because his sermon was about we cannot descend into violence. And it was like, thank God. I was so happy to hear that.
Yeah, my pastor, I know handled it very appropriately and biblically. He said a prayer for Charlie and his family, he said a prayer for the young Ukrainian lady, and a prayer against evil. And that's where we have to narrow this conversation down to. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand the Christian worldview on this. There's only two views on it. There's what is holy and of God, and what is evil.
Right. And what is evil. And then also, what's crazy is this is so clearly evil.
Yeah.
You'd think it would be clearer to people.
Yeah.
That this is evil. And then you start feeling weird. You're like, why aren't you renouncing this very clear act of evil?
Yeah. Bro, you know why? Because people have a vested interest in it and they can't look past that. I disagree heavily with a lot of the things that were peripheral to Martin Luther King, but I will never, ever let anyone say anything without consequences about the way that man was brutally murdered. I will never sit back and let someone say something about Malcolm X and how he was brutally murdered. And I'm not going to sit there and let anyone say anything about Charlie Kirk, especially if they're a Christian. And I'm like, oh, well, when I didn't check anyone. A young man, I was like, whoa, you say you're a Christian. You're not supposed to be saying this type of stuff. Your authority is the Bible, right? The Bible speaks clearly on these type of situations. So which one are you going to lean into, Christian? You're going to lean into what the world wants you to do, or you're going to lean into this? Because let's say you believe Charlie Kirk was all these things. I just cannot find anywhere in scripture that says we applaud someone going to hell. There are points in scriptures where it said they are turned over to their desires, and that's where they're headed.
But basically you are basically a demon, or you're one of Satan's lieutenants if you are gleefully happy someone's going to hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Only demons would be proud of it. Continue, my brother.
Right. Only that's demonic. That's satanic. And so we got to get a hold of ourselves. Reaching into the mailbag. This from Rogue Radio, friend of the show. You guys all know her. She says that a father who was as good as him should have never lost his life. To have his daughter run up to him and be wrapped in his arms is something no girl should ever have snatched from her. Red, blue, black, or white, we all must respect each other. I even had mourned with my coworker that day, who's normally a stranger to me, but we cried and hugged each other.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm going to be honest, I actually cried that day. I'm going to admit that I'm a little soft ass.
There's nothing soft about it, man. I have a lot of, this is not a cope. I have a lot of respect for people that were able to be brought to tears. It means you're not dead on the inside. Like I said, I'm anesthetized to a lot of stuff, but this hit me. And then I think even more so because rage is bubbling up underneath.
The first day or two, I had some very unchristian thoughts in my mind. You know what? I'll be honest with them. I'll tell you guys right now that literally when this happened, I too was like, I wanted righteous indignation. I was like, we should fight back. We need to get revenge. These are thoughts that went through my head. I will admit that.
Yeah.
And they're unchristian thoughts. And so if anyone is listening and they're being challenged with those thoughts, I'm telling you right now, those aren't good thoughts.
Yeah. And just for the mouth breathers that are like, you guys are two black men. What do you mean by? We're talking about we as in the church, right? We're sold out Christians, and the we're referring to are the saints. Obviously, we're all made imago Dei in the image of God, but we're literally talking about in mourning the passing of a brother and a martyr. Now, that's something you should look at if you're on the left side. I'm like, this could not have gone any worse. You got the vice president saying there will be, you got the vice president sounding like someone from a Tolkien book. There can be no unity.
Yeah. And it is interesting that a lot of Christians are using the term martyr. I'm not there yet. I'm not fully convinced. I guess it depends on what you consider a martyr. Like I said, I believe he was a man doing a political job who happened to be a Christian. And so obviously that motivated him, right? But the question is, did he die for the faith, in the name of the faith?
Now, that is the definition of a martyr. Those poor souls, those brothers and sisters that Nero drug into the games, they were martyred because of their faith.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good question to ask. I know some people that would be furious that we are asking that question, but I will definitely say he was assassinated. He was 100% assassinated, and I guess we'd have to examine his legacy. Did he lead with the gospel, or It's a tough
See,
question.
that's quite. This is only God knows this.
Yeah.
Or is the term martyr just something we as men created, and therefore that's our definition again? It might not even matter. I do believe that he was a faithful, true Christian. I don't think he was that was a grift.
No, I
Some
don't
people
think
try to say it's a grift. All you conservatives are religious.
yeah.
No, there's no way that's a grift.
No, I don't think it was a grift either, man. And I know it wasn't a grift, man. I know it wasn't a grift. Again, I do feel like politics is a strange place for a Christian to be in. And not saying that Christians shouldn't be in there. It's a strange place because, again, the Bible is silent on certain things, but it's the foundation of our worldview, right? Like the Bible
Right.
doesn't really speak to DEI hiring, does it? But it does say
You're
do
right.
not covet your neighbor's
Yes, right. Yeah.
wife or slave. So it's an interesting thing, man. So at some point, obviously, Charlie is filling in the gaps of his worldview with his political views, which is supported by what he believes is a Christian. And the fact of the matter is, man, you'd have to sit there and tell me, did he say anything untrue? Let's just remove the Christian part. Did he espouse any political beliefs that could not be verified or refuted with data? Can you do that? If you can, you
Right.
should be on your camera doing that directly after calling him a racist. You should be doing that, right? You should be attacking his ideas. And it seems like to me, people are losing the ability to attack ideas, to deal with ideas. And so it falls into violence, right? Now, what do you think about the comparison of people calling him the Martin Luther King of the right?
Okay, that is where I draw a line, right? And love you, Charlie. God bless you. I hope you're doing good in heaven, right? And your legacy is awesome. And the political injustice he was fighting is nowhere close to the injustice Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were fighting.
Right.
They're not equivalent. They can't be equivalent. People were saying, here's what it is. Saying DEI is unfair and messed up is totally legitimate. Saying that white people are oppressed in America in 2025 is ridiculous.
Yeah, this is a strange thing, man, because but I got some friends that are in it, man, and they tell me all the time it's so hard to be a white man in America, and I can see it. I'm like, you are public enemy number one right now, but I also comically respond, it's just your turn. It's just your turn.
That is a great joke. That is super funny. Oh, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. It sucks, but it also doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff you can get away with when you pass for white and you're male.
But let's look at it logically, my brother. You and I right now will solve the problem. Charlie Kirk was indeed assassinated. He is a white, straight male, right? Who was a Christian, so he had conservative values, right? Now I guess we can't say that's not on the table, right? Before we could say, show me one white conservative that's been murdered for his ideals. Here it is, my brother. And now that's where it gets to a funky place, right? Because now you substantiated the claim. Before it was true, but it was true with a caveat, right? It's
Right.
take it easy. Take it easy. But now it's true, and here's what happened. And I'm not saying he's Martin Luther King. I am saying, though, I don't think this is just going to go away.
Right? Oh my God. No, you're absolutely right. And here's the whole thing. I am a firm believer, and I know there are people going to try to argue with me or have issues. I'm a firm believer that there are currently no white supremacist terrorists in America causing trouble. There's some isolated lone gun incels doing crazy stuff, but there's no organized anything. There wasn't. There's now gonna be.
Yeah. So,
and this is horrible.
Yeah. Yes. Just think back to the militia period that we lived through in America, the bombing of the Unabomber. I don't know if he was a white militia, but the guys who bombed the building that had the daycare in it. You remember what I'm talking
the
about?
federal building or whatever, those dudes.
Yeah, when they were running up on people's properties. If they thought you were a white militia, there was a response to that back in those days, man. They're like, these guys got guns and they got training. We got to go in there now. And they quelled that very quickly. But that doesn't mean they went away. And they've been quiet, and because of the response that will happen, the response for that, I don't know if they won't feel more emboldened by this. And remember, Charlie was a moderate, right? He was a moderate.
No, I know he had no true radical ideas. He just lived in an age where people wanted men to shut up.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible thing, but
Yeah. They
they see a white guy up on the mic, they just need him to shut up because they're already offended before he opens his mouth. This is not going to be good for business, basically. But another thing, as someone who identifies as a conservative, I don't want to be associated with the violence that's coming. I don't want somebody, God forbid, to attack a pride march or whatever, or attack a feminist or something, or take out a feminist, or take God forbid. That's not something I want to be associated with. But unfortunately, I have a bad feeling something like this is going to happen.
Yeah, and the reason you have that bad feeling is because it's not as if America doesn't have a history of that. I don't know if I've ever seen any widespread attacks on pride parades. Correct me, anyone that's willing to point out that data. And I'm not entirely sure that the numbers of attacks on the trans community yet rivals the attacks on, say, traditional gays and lesbians. I got pretty lucky in the 80s and 90s, in the 2000s. And all that data compiled, I'm not sure those attacks compared to the lynchings and murders of Black people. But America has a history of this type of stuff. And not even America, individual groups have a history of this. So I condemn the violence now. But had you posted yourself face first celebrating this murder, I want you to know that's not what they're seeing. They're not just seeing you celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, the moderate Christian who espoused ideas about America being holy and returning to a sense of normalcy. No, what they're seeing is the exact problem that they feel like is ripping America from their hands. And I'm talking about the fringe right. That's what they see, bro. They are seeing that, and they are looking past Charlie, and they're like, oh, thanks for making yourself clear. Now I know who the enemies are. I only had a vague idea of who the enemies were.
Right.
Everyone. But now I know you in particular are an enemy.
Oh, it's going to be wild. You know what else is going to be wild? God forbid, Christian terrorists.
Oh my goodness, man.
So if there's a fanatical group that identifies as Christian and they look at him as a martyr, that's why that language, I don't think that word language is necessarily dangerous. It can be dangerous to the wrong listener.
Yeah.
But if they want to retaliate for a martyr, that's not going to be good for business either. No. And as a Christian, I don't want to be associated with that.
I don't want to be associated with that, and I'm not going to be associated with that. But I do have to say this in regards. I want to look at a more sane response to that, because I'd be irresponsible not to. This is also emboldened sane people as well. So, hey, I'm going out to a college campus. I'm going to start evangelizing on the street. I'm going to start sharing the truth of the gospel to people. And for those brothers and sisters, myself included, yourself included, prayers for safety, right? Because there's not a safe space, quote unquote, anymore. You thought the internet was safe before, but we're up here on camera saying things like real name, no gimmicks, right? We're up here on camera, and I just want to pray for those people that have been emboldened to get out there and put to grass to start sharing truth, because it's a funky time, man.
Because that's interesting that you say that, because they're saying record numbers of people are applying to make Turning Point chapters.
Yeah.
And so like any good martyr, he's inspired countless people to take up his mantle. And whoever was trying to silence him, you accidentally made hundreds more Charlie Kirks out there.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, man, is, it's just so weird to me how people can't expand and be consistent with their thinking. Whenever the right does something, there's always this grand storytelling about this vast network of evil white men and their stupid bootlicking black pundits that, it's just like a broad conspiracy. You say that there could be a conspiracy on the left of violent, who people, and they're like, no, that is just absurd. That is absurd. How
the mere suggestion? What are you doing? We're peaceful. It's you guys who are violent. Really? No one took a shot at Biden. There are 2 attempts on Trump's life. Yeah, we're the violent ones.
But they can't even fathom the notion that maybe this kid was in cahoots with someone. That maybe it looks weird. Oh, by the way, the people doing the hand signals, one of those guys was Turk, like a Christian apologist, and he was just like brushing his nose. But it blows their mind that people might think that there might be more than one bad actor when you have an old guy who has now just admitted today that he basically did not basically he did that so the shooter can get away, right? When you got a guy
Oh, I
who
didn't know that. I didn't hear this.
and this is not, you don't have to go look on YouTube. Go to your most trusted news source. It's
I don't know who I trust, but
and then you got a guy who basically, after the shot rang out, jumps up and smiles in the camera, who is now saying he was screaming out USA to try to save people from what was going to happen next or distract people.
what?
And I'm saying they just can't fathom the idea that there's a conspiracy, and they just, I don't know, man.
In my experience, all I see are conspiracies. And have you heard the latest one that is? I don't know if she created it, but you heard what Candace Owens has been saying
What did she say?
today. Cash Patel came out and he said we found all these texts from.
Yeah.
Read them. He basically read them, and Candace Owens looked at them at the text, and I haven't heard them yet. But I think it's funny. She's saying there's no way two guys in their 20s wrote this. These sound like old men. And because what it is, he lays out his entire plan via text to his lover. In all the history of criminality, no one has ever been so dumb, right? And so she's spinning the idea that these texts must be lies. They must be written by the FBI, and they're used. And can't wait to listen to them because she's saying that they're done in a tone that doesn't sound like men in their 20s who are internet savvy would ever write.
You know who she wants to blame.
I know who she wants to blame.
We already know where Candace has also outright said, not even alluded to, that Netanyahu had reached out to Charlie Kirk about some criticism he had of Israel, and that there was pressure on Charlie Kirk. And we haven't even gotten into the Officer Tatum response to that and other people. Even Charlie Kirk, pastor, came out and said some things in the defense of Charlie Kirk in regards to these topics. But yeah, Candace she's odd, to say the very least, right? She is extremely odd in her approach, man. I don't know what their relationship was like towards the end. He never said anything publicly negative about her, and she said a bunch of beautiful things. Her tribute to him was beautiful.
Oh my God, it was beautiful. I love the images of them dancing together and stuff. They did sung karaoke together. Candace, it's so funny because we know one side of Candace. Candace is literally beloved amongst all her colleagues and former colleagues. Matt Walsh loves her. Who's the other guy? The other Michael Knowles. Michael Knowles is the godfather of her child.
Yeah.
So they have such a closeness. We all know that. What's her face? Brett Cooper looked up at her as like a mentor and an older sister. And I just think that she's probably in real life an amazing person to know.
Yeah. It's just, she's on a crusade right now, and in the public forum, in the business of politics, she's a pariah, right? And she's basically on the same side of the table, and it's ironic that they don't get along, as Nick Fuentes. She's out there somewhere, and I'm really surprised and praying that nothing happens to her. I do want to pivot for a second because I think it relates to this conversation. So the president, obviously, this has been quick, the way they wrap this whole thing up, at least in regards to the investigation and all that stuff, man. But there's a lot of other stuff going on in the world too, man. National Guard is going to Memphis, right? And I got to be honest with you, bro. This is one of those things where it's just, if I still have a black card, this is definitely going to get it taken, man. When they said they were going to Chicago, I wanted them to interview people who were victims of gang violence on whether or not they want the National Guard to come and restore order. Because in 2025, we have people on social media admitting that Chicago is a lawless city, right? A response from other people were, we don't need occupation. I'm like, you're already occupied. The city is already occupied. The occupation of the city by a criminal element. And you're doing that because you think that outreach programs can stop this. But the unfortunate thing about that is we've gone long past the stage of intervention, early intervention and prevention. We are well into the stage of people are dying. People have been dying.
Right.
And that is another reason people thought Charlie Kirk was racist, because he addressed what is glaringly obvious to so many people, and that so many Black people will not say because of the consequences of saying it, which is that forget the statistics. I get the argument. Like, of course, Black people are killed by other Black people. They live in proximity of other Black people. Okay, stupid. Then let's look at those numbers and compare them to white people who kill white people within proximity. That's how you do that math.
Right.
How many people are dying in Chinatown? How many people are dying on the Upper West Side versus how many people are dying in Harlem, being killed by their own?
Because it's not just about numbers. You need to know how to interpret numbers.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier about the trans thing. And so a lot of people put this thing, they're like, trans people are this amount more likely to be attacked. Look at all the attacks happening on trans people. And what they're not factoring in is how many of those are sex workers.
Yeah.
Compared to, and then you realize that what you're really showing us is that sex workers get murdered a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, man, where it's like, oh, I can't believe I'm going to say this, man. And I don't know, we'll leave it in. The Bible speaks explicitly. I'm not a dispensationalist, by the way, but it does speak about lawlessness, right? And what it looks like when people are turned over to a base and depraved mind. And usually when we hear the word depraved, we think about some weirdo, just, I'm going to beat it until no one stops me.
Right. We're like in a park watching kids beat in public.
Which is horrible. Which is horrible. But what it also is as well is the criminal element feeling so emboldened that
they can just do whatever they want. They can take an apartment complex.
Exactly.
Exactly. And once again, I've already been very rough on the left tonight. I feel like I've been very critical. I'm trying not to right now, but I also don't understand their policies or their beliefs on like ultra mercy, not normal mercy, ultra mercy to the point where, like you said, criminals get emboldened because there's no consequences for anything. And so how do you have what is the logic between bail reform system,
right,
where like somebody can commit some crazy action and be right out on the street? Right. Someone can have 10, 11 arrests in a row over the last like couple of months, and there's no consequences to actually put them away for a longer time.
Yeah. I honestly, it's like, how many times can a person be released because of a violent crime? Well, yes, there should be reform in the criminal system. We understand that, man. We've both been railroaded by the criminal system. But just because I got railroaded doesn't mean the dude that committed 13 is railroaded, bro.
If anything, you know what's crazier? We had a harder time with it because we're law abiding. It's almost like it's a you have a benefit if you are not a law abiding person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this whole thing, like you've heard about like the whole, I forget the name of the council, but there's a council in Portland that before someone is sentenced, he gets to sit and talk with the accused, gets to sit and talk about their life and their circumstances. And then what they do is they negotiate with the judge to lower the sentence. So if you had a harder life, if you're like, I'm a poor Black kid from blah, 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 and my mother left me, and my dad was a crackhead, somehow that will reduce your penalty.
And you know why that's
an insane system.
You know why that's not justice? Let's just compartmentalize it, which is a problem that it's something that people aren't willing to do. Let's compartmentalize it. You are a disadvantaged youth that came up in a hard area and everything was stacked against you. You murder someone in the act of a crime. You go in front of this council, you plead your case based on your circumstances growing up. They lower your sentence. How is that justice for the victim?
And you know what I'm saying? And so what is it? It's like mercy for the guilty is cruelty to the not guilty.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so there's just a lot of this stuff going on. Now, let me ask you about the Memphis thing, getting back to the heart of the matter. What are they going to combat there?
Memphis is wild. In fact, I don't know if you feel like I sent a video. It is the one. I need to get a new mouse, by the way. It is the one from Anton Daniels. And so that's the black fellow with the
Right.
black and
Yellow
gold.
cap.
Yeah. And just check. Let's just look at Anton Daniels. Shout out to him and his channel for what he's done in this space in regards to trying to help people grow in entrepreneurship and build up black capital and black awareness around how to be accountable, things of that nature. He's not an Uncle Tom. He's just a man using the tools that he has been afforded, which is business acumen to help better black people and deal with issues. But he was contemplating going to Memphis on a trip, and he has now changed his mind. And also, shout out to the mayor of Memphis, who went into the Lion's Den on MSNBC and defended the troops coming in. He's, yeah, of course, man. We want resources for prevention and intervention. And if the troops come, they can definitely help with order and maintaining things. We're a big sports town. And he's dealing with if you're listening to his answers, he's dealing with the issues like right away. He's, yeah, we're going to use them where they're needed. And they didn't like MSNBC. They didn't call him a thing, but they were definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm having a little difficulty with YouTube and the ad blocker thing.
Oh, no problem. You want me to bring it up?
Yeah, if you could bring it up, I'd appreciate it.
No problem. Give me 1 sec here.
They're trying to knuckle nose me, as they say.
They've taken over. This is. There we go. And you let me know when you're ready.
Blammo. Let's do this.
According to Memphis police, 7 shootings have been reported since last Friday morning, one incident leading to a homicide in South Memphis. But it's one shooting incident that happened during broad daylight Saturday morning that has some Memphis wondering if the National Guard will make any real change. A shooting in broad daylight near A.W. Willis Avenue and Front Street in downtown Memphis Saturday morning has some Bluff City residents wondering if the National Guard coming will change the city's crime reputation.
No, ain't gonna bring the change. Was the car still rolling?
It is funny they got out of the car to go shoot
Dang.
somebody.
A shooting in broad daylight near A.W. Willis Avenue and Front Street in downtown Memphis Saturday morning has some Bluff City residents wondering if
This
the
is
National Guard
crazy, bro.
coming change the city's crime reputation.
No, ain't gonna bring the change that we need to see, but it might help with the crime a little bit. But change, it's gonna take more than some police to come down here for the change the city.
We're going to Memphis.
All right, I changed my mind. I'm not gonna go and visit Memphis. I'm gonna just go stay in Nashville.
Exactly. Bro. Lawlessness. I don't understand how people can quantify this and break it down. And yes, disadvantaged people groups, those injustices and those discrepancies need to be dealt with. But while we're dealing with that, we must also address that 2 young men got out the car and one had an automatic weapon and the other one probably had I don't know. He had a handgun. Maybe it had a switch on it. Maybe it didn't. And in broad daylight starts blasting another car. So I'm just going to lay out something for the classroom. How can a gang intervention group prevent what would possibly be a murder in that moment? Are we going to put gang interventionists out on the front line so they can jump in front of the cars that are being shot at? I'm just trying to understand the math on that. Or does gang intervention work best when gang members are willing to come to the table and meet in a place where they can be intervened on? But once they start the shooting, which social activist group is going out there to remove the guns in the midst of the shooting?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's like that senator, I think he's like Senator Kennedy, and he's like, you hate the cops so much? Next time you're in trouble, why don't you call a crackhead?
That was out of pocket.
He's talking to people who want to defund the police, and also I have my criticisms of people. I have a dear friend, one of my besties. So he's a soft-spoken liberal, love him to death, but he is a firm believer that instead of paying cops, we should pay social workers. And I don't understand that's it. Like, what is a social work? Like the video we just saw, what is a social worker going to do in this situation?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes you have to bring down the hammer. We can't be nice all the time. We can't be fluffy and squishy all the time. Sometimes we just have to bring the hammer down. And like you said, call evil what it is, evil, and it needs to be stomped out sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about using that definition, that word evil, is it applies to the police too. If they are crooked cops, they should be buried under the prison, right? Because you now are using the power of the office and the station you were placed in. You should face real consequences. No blue flu, no support from the boys showing up to the court case trying to intimidate, none of that stuff. That stuff should be dealt with an equally heavy hand. This, which we are discussing right now, I just don't understand this. So, like, whenever someone says we got to get the resources in for prevention, that's perfect. If I have gangrene in my arm, we should definitely think about what medicines we're going to use to prevent it from coming back. But if the doctor says it needs to be lopped, it needs to be lopped. You know why?
Absolutely.
Because don't remove that part, it continues to spread. So why don't we use the medicines in conjunction, right? And let's see what happens. I am not a military man. I have no military experience. I am not a policeman. But I often think about when we pushed into places like Afghanistan. I assume that there was a local that the military would work with that would help them understand the lay of the land, or help them to meet with tribal leaders, and perhaps say, hey, you're about 2 seconds away from a drone attack. I want you to come to this meeting and maybe we can negotiate a surrender. Now, if those words I just said offend you, I want you to apply that to a gang-written
Real talk.
neighborhood.
Y'all,
Right?
listen,
I
this
want
is
you to apply that to a gang-written neighborhood. We send someone in to speak to those leaders, not the local community leaders, but the local gang leaders. And it says, and it goes as such. The hammer is about to come down. This is the negotiation table. I want you to allow the younger ones to disavow their allegiance to you, right? We're coming in to get any young gangbangers, anyone that hasn't seen real action. We want to save them from what's coming. This is where you bring in the intervention team, right? They start working with the military. Let's get these young guns out of here. Help them understand what's coming next. In fact, that should probably happen before the National Guard gets there. All right. No one wants to come to the table. Then what option is left for the law-abiding citizens who are caught in the occupation?
Yeah, absolutely.
I need someone from the Black revolutionary community to have a conversation with me about that does not involve, look at your haircut. Bro, I'm so sick of FD signifier, man. I got a lot of respect for that brother, man. But if your argument is Black conservatives are so funny because they're here, and you show that Key and Peele skit, but yet you can't deal with the actual arguments, it's like Chicago's occupied, Detroit is occupied, parts of New York are occupied. What are you willing to do for the people who don't want to die from violence? The same way gun violence, right?
What do you do to the grandmother who she just wants to go to her job, drop her kids off at her grandkids off at school, and come home safely?
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand what anyone thinks about that. And I think it was Courtney who dropped in the group chat that whole video about gangster life and how like the gangster life mentality people need to be squashed.
That was me, but you know exactly
what you're talking about. Bad. I'm sorry. So I can't keep track of all the memes and who's responsible for each meme.
Quality. No,
I give you full credit for that meme. I'm sorry, brother.
Maybe I shouldn't have taken credit, man, because now who knows what's going to happen. Again, I'm not saying I want to see violence visited upon Black people. I don't want to see any Black man die. I do want to see the occupation from drug dealers and gangbangers and all these sort of people who've been abusing the community for years come to an end. If you can point out the problem, not you, but if anyone can point out the problem in my thinking without using words like coon, bootlicker, Uncle Tom, and really sit down and have a conversation with me about how do we get this occupation to end? You want to see Black women venerated and treated accordingly? Let's start dealing with pimps. Let's start dealing with drug dealers. Let's start dealing with the people who prey on Black women. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Amen.
I don't understand it. But yeah, so they're going down there because the governor of the state and the mayor are on board for this. I don't know exactly what it looks like. I know that DC, according to the Fox pundits, is Shangri-La now. It's a utopia. But
is that what they're claiming?
Yeah, the crime is actually dropped. It's a thing.
Okay.
And crime,
So, DC is wild, right? And so before, I used to do this thing when I was living down in Charlottesville. I would take a Greyhound from Charlottesville to DC, right? But then when I was in DC, I'd go over to Chinatown, take a Chinatown bus, which is super cheap, back the rest of the way to New York when I was visiting family, right? And so the first time I did this, I get out of the bus stop, right? And it's in a fine neighborhood. And I'm walking to Chinatown, and I take the wrong turn. And within a moment, I'm in the hood.
Yep.
I am absolutely in the hood. And this is so funny. I'm walking around, and I realize I am in a very bad neighborhood right now. And a trans girl comes up to me, and she said, "Brother, you got to get your ass killed." I said, "Yeah, I don't know where I'm going." And she's like, "Follow me." And I followed her, and she led me out of the hood. And she was Chinatown's on the highway, and I gave her a tip, right? I was like, "Thanks." And so I keep walking, I walk like a block or two. And this is so funny, the border of the hood. I walk a block or two, and I look over, and I see the White House. And I'm saying that's how close the hood is to what is considered the nice neighborhood.
Yeah, man.
So if they can clean that town up, I don't know. I got to see to believe it.
And it's crazy because I understand the fear, right? I understand an occupation and violence upon the community. I just need help understanding there's already an extreme amount of violence being visited on the community. So what is the plan to stop that? Like abrupt stop. How many more lives have to come to an abrupt end before we stop doing the song and dance? If they would just free up more. This was a problem when Biden was in office, and it was a problem when Obama was in office, and it was a problem when Clinton was in office. You see the train of thought I'm going down here. When liberals were in power, Democrats were in power, this was still a problem. So at what point, after trillions of dollars or millions have been poured into, never mind, let me not finish that next up. When do we look at the actual occupation? It's like saying, hey man, there's a chance that I'm gonna get murdered by someone else. But people are getting murdered right now. But because there's a chance that people can get murdered by someone else, I'm willing to deal with the reality of people being murdered right now.
So the thought from the mayors of these cities is that they don't want to look bad that they're getting federal help doing it. And they're like one of those people who are sick and they don't want to admit they're sick. And they're like, I don't need a doctor. I'm fine. That's exactly what the mayors are doing, because it'll make them look bad, especially in elections, if they need federal help to clean up their own city.
Yeah, I get that, man. And while you're deliberating and playing politics, people are dying. People are dying, and their blood is on your hands, man. This is the video I was telling you about. This is absolutely nuts.
Mayor of Memphis, all Young. Mayor Young, if we can just start with some clarity. I've talked to a lot of mayors across the country. I've talked to Mario Bowser of Washington, D.C. We've spoken with Mayor Johnson. I'm wondering, all the mayors say the same thing. They say, look, we want the federal resources from the federal government, and the federal government has cut the budgets. Do you want the National Guard in your city?
No, we definitely want a partnership with the federal government on providing the resources that we need. We have seen significant reduction in crime over the last 2 years, and we want to keep that trend going. And we feel like those resources that can be invested in things like the prevention and intervention and the groups that we have out on the streets that are working with these individuals and changing the course of their lives. That's one way. And also investing with our law enforcement partners. That's the way to really change the course of crime in our communities. But we understand that a decision has been made that the federal government and the governor want to send the National Guard. And our goal is to make sure that we have an opportunity to work with them and align what their activities look like when they come into this community.
Mr. Mayor, help me understand, because I'm a little bit confused. How long has the Republican governor of the state, Tennessee, been the governor?
I think Governor Lee has been in office for about 7 years. Next year will be
7
his
years.
last year.
7 years.
Yeah.
7 years. And he's just noticing now that Memphis has a crime problem. So much so, under his watch, he did nothing about it. I'm really helping me understand how before you get to federal resources, as a former state official, statewide official, lieutenant governor of my state, I know that if there was a particular area that had to deal with crime, and certainly there were parts of Maryland that did, the first call for help was not from the federal government. It was working with the city, working with the county, working with the municipalities to create solutions in our state. And if it was beyond our capacity, sir, then maybe we would call for federal help.
This is all posturing and pivoting in order to avoid accountability. For example, if you go over to Nashville, it's not the same as if you go over to Memphis. I've been to Nashville. It's not the same as if you go over to Memphis. Now, the mayor is trying to save face because he got to play both sides. On one end, he got to please the liberals who continue to vote him in. And then on the other hand, he really wants the federal government to come in and stop it. But you can't ask for resources without being held accountable. Cities have been blundering resources for too long. And that's what all of the playbook has been happening in every last one of these cities the entire time. They keep begging for taxpayer money. Hey, man, send us some more money. Chicago, give us $800 million. Los Angeles, give us hundreds of millions of dollars. Memphis, send us a bunch of money so we can keep the gravy train going.
Right.
No,
they don't want
that
troops
is
in
not
there
how this plays out.
because the trooper's going to do something.
Yeah.
It's with the homeless person. And I'm saying certain homeless people, when you offer to give them food and they're like, and they say they're starving, you're like, hey, I'll buy you some food. They don't want that. They want the money so they can spend it on drugs.
You literally beat Anton to the exact same point, almost verbatim. I was about to say right now.
Oh man, that's awesome. But dude, let's see this.
First of all, you are responsible for stopping crime within your own city and your own community. Secondly, we already know what the play is. We know that they are monetizing crime in these communities. And the reason why they keep on talking about crime prevention and intervention and groups and all of this stuff, they are not stopping anybody from committing crime at all. First of all, numbers is obviously being juked. Secondly, they are sharing the same blueprint across every single blue city. You're never going to sell me on the idea that crime is down 20 and 30% in these cities, how they reclassify crime and the fact that they are letting these people go and combining it with the idea that people are not, they are down so many police officers in majority of these cities, and the staffing levels of the police officers are up in Republican cities, that you see an actual real, not reduction in crime, but there's less crime in the suburbs altogether because the cultural norms are different. But they are monetizing the crime by continuing to act like these community prevention groups are actually slowing the crime down, and it's not. They aren't apps at all, but it's a way for them to continue to fleece us taxpayers. I was about to say the federal government, but to fleece the taxpayers and to send in more money and resources so that they can plug their budget deficits and their holes. No, listen, you can now, this reminds me of homeless people, right? Follow me here. This kind of reminds me of homeless people because it's like this, and we're going to come back to this in a minute because they're trying to press him to try to go against Trump. When you meet a homeless person on the street, they say, give me money, give me money. They had a sign up. Yeah, give me some money. Give me more money. I'm getting myself together. I'm clean. I got it together. I'm going to continue to do what I'm supposed to do. And then you say, no, but I can get you some food, or I can get you some hotel room, or I can get you some place to stay. I can help you do this, and I can help you do that. Yeah, I don't want that. They don't want that. They want your money so that they can do what they want to do and continue to act. Man, listen, all of these liberal cities, they've been trying to reduce crime since I was born, and I'm 43 years old. They've been acting like they're reducing crime since I came out the womb. That means that crime.
And here's the thing, right? If you're going to disagree with what he's saying, okay, bring the data. Show the actual proof of how this man is wrong, right? Especially, I'm going to use a talking point from the left. If you are in the community, I want you to tell me, do you feel the lessening of crime from prevention groups? But if you're an affluent Black person that makes videos on the internet, who moved out of the hood, now you're going to tell everyone who still lives in the hood or has family in the hood how these groups are doing. Say it to the victim that was murdered by a gang member. Deal with it.
It should be done. Crime should be over by the amount of crime that they supposedly are reducing.
Exactly. If crime is going down 20% every year for 20 years, something wrong with the
You
math.
should be out of percentiles at this point.
I'm telling you, you should be able to walk down the street and just, man, this is what heaven on earth looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Utopia.
Now, I just want you to pay attention. I know we're going to wrap soon, to how the mayor deals with this, man, because this ties back to Charlie Kirk, man. Politics is a poisonous game, man, and you just have to play it on so many different levels. But I think this brother did a good job of admitting, I ain't got this. We need help, while saying, I got this.
Understand
What's different? It wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that Memphis is a largely black municipality, would it?
Yeah.
I'll leave it to MSNBC to go here. Oh, yeah. Like we don't know that this is coming.
This is the largest majority black city in the nation. It's something that I wear as a badge of honor. And I think it's something that we should be proud of. Governor Lee, certainly he can speak for himself, but I will say that they have been partners with the city on a number of initiatives they've supported.
Pause it
with
for a second.
Tennessee Highway Patrol helping us on our interstates. And
So here's the deal with, if you're a leftist, if you're a woke ass leftist, here's what you need to do. If you're a woke leftist who runs the biggest blackest city in all of America, if you really are woke and believe in these things, you would make sure there's no crime or shame to be had with your city.
Yeah.
I wear it as a badge of honor. Do you wear it as a badge of honor that there's endless crime happening in the blackest city? You should be ashamed of yourself right now.
Yeah, your number one job should to be uphold the safety of the law-abiding black citizens in that community. They should be the number one priority. But I do like his answer. He's like, yeah, we have been working with them. They've been working with us on the roads. They've been doing this. They've been doing that. But none of that stuff stopped these young brothers from jumping out the car and out 200 rounds.
they provide significant funding in the form of violent crime intervention funds that help with some of those intervention and prevention strategies that I talked about. I'll have to let him.
Oh, they don't like that. They don't like that. Listen to what I'm saying. He tried to go after the governor, and now he's telling him, no, they have been working with us. They have been partnering with us. They have been working with us. They have been partnering with us. And then I'm going to tell you another thing too. He lied. Not intentionally. I don't believe that it was intentionally, but what people don't really know is that the largest majority black city by population is Detroit, Michigan. It's right here where I'm at. And I just pulled this up right here. It's a quick AI search. You can go ahead and look it up. The largest majority black city in the country is Detroit, Michigan, and has been for a long time. It forever will be, followed by Memphis and Baltimore. So I just want to correct y'all. I want to make sure that we getting our facts together while we sitting here having this conversation.
Speak to his position on the National Guard itself, but my goal as mayor of the city is to make sure that whatever decisions that are made that are outside the control of me as mayor, that we figure out how to turn it into a win for our community. And that's my goal in this situation.
I want you to take a listen to what.
Oh, did you see him roll his eyes like a little girl on the left? Watch this.
Into a win for our community. And that's my goal in this situation.
I want you to take a listen
He is so defeated.
to what the mayor of Shelby County, Tennessee, had to say about this news.
To have individuals with military fatigue, semi-automatic weapons, and armored vehicles patrolling our streets is way too far. It's anti-democratic and it's anti-American. The way you can take away democratic liberties is to make sure that people don't have a way to protest. And the way you do that is to patrol the day with military personnel. The other way is you stifle the military in such a way that the military begins to comply even when the orders are unlawful.
Mayor Young, do you share those concerns?
I think there are many in the community that are concerned and they're scared. They want to know how things are going to look in our city.
And to that point, man, what about the protest for the murders? Right?
Right.
Protest for the murders. That is the one thing none of these people ever address, which is, hey, this young man was murdered last night while walking home. What's your answer to that? How do you plan on dealing with that this week, today? Like, how do you plan on bringing that to a drastic stop? What's your plan? We have to roll out more money. Okay, how long is that going to take? Well, we got to get funding and then we got to build an infrastructure. Thought you had one already. How long is it going to take until the murders stop?
Not to mention, it's funny that dude was talking about how they're here to take away the civil liberties and to stop protesters. It's Memphis, Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Memphis, Tennessee is changing the entire environment by how much they protest. Like, all the protesters are from Memphis, Tennessee. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
It would be different if it was like New York or if it was LA, but Memphis, Tennessee, there's no agenda there to stop protesters because protesting is out of control there.
Yeah, let me just wrap your mind around this, and we'll use Chicago again as an illustration. So they don't want people's civil liberties impeded upon. Would you say not being able to wear a certain color hat or walk to a place safely means your civil liberties have been impeded?
Yes, exactly. You essentially have no freedoms if that's your life. That if you can't walk over to the gas station and get a bag of chips because you're scared you're going to get shot to death.
Yeah, your civil liberties have already been impeded upon, right? They've already been occupied, my brother. We don't have to keep going through this. He does handle them and cook them pretty well. I won't say cook them. Like, again, he's a man in a hard situation, which is he was voted in by Democrats. He wants to be voted in again. And this is usually what happens when you're trying to figure out what's wrong and right. At the end of the day, is he going to make the decision to say, hey, we have to go through with this? I don't care if I'm elected mayor again. We have to save the next victim of gun violence. We have to save them before.
And so here's the whole situation. One, I think that this is correct escalation, right? This is the correct way to use it. So like he said, if the taxes from your own city are not bringing a solution, then you go to your governor. He went to his governor. He says, for years, we've been working with him, trying to stop the crime. Okay, if that isn't working, then yes, you call in the National Guard. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And wait, secondly, though, the thing they need to do, though, they can't just patrol the streets. They have to do surgical strikes on the gangs.
Yeah.
Because what could happen is the gangs could just lay low for a while, wait for them to leave, and then the crime just raises back up as soon as they leave.
Yeah, there's exactly. You're 100% correct, my brother. There's a plan in play by the police. It's called the warrant squad. You might not have never dealt with this portion of the law, but there is an entire division dedicated to executing warrants.
Serving warrants, yeah.
Executing warrants and serving warrants and things of that nature. And the police do have a database of repeat offenders, etc. And that's what I would be using the National Guard for, to serve warrants and execute on warrants. And
yeah,
I would definitely station them in the hotbed areas. And then you can use the aid of the intervention groups the same way, right? Now, I'm not talking about like occupationist sympathizers or things of that nature, but you need people willing to work with the infrastructure to say, hey, he's not in the gang. Or we could just be like the coolest dictator in the world who single-handedly cleaned up his country. And no one over there is complaining except for activists who are like, this wasn't done correctly. One more girl needed to be raped for you to feel ethically pure about how the response should be. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But again, I have no political power. It's just something I'm passionate about. And it's because I'm a black man and I don't live in the community. I want to live in the community. I don't think I've ever told you this. I didn't want to move up here. I did not want to move to this area. I want to be around my family. I grew up around my people. I want to be around my people, but I'm not going to sacrifice the safety of my children to people peripheral to my people who don't care. They just don't care. And I have to own some of this stuff with my own family, but that's for another podcast. I had to choose the lesser of two evils: imminent danger or the potential of being called the N-word. You know, like those things is going to kill me. The other thing is going to hurt my feelings. You know what I'm saying? And that's
right.
That's what I had. So it's been great to be back.
Nobody judge you. No, nobody judges you.
Oh no, I get judged and it hurts my feelings. And I'm being serious. I get sly comments from family members like, when's the last time you've been through the neighborhood? And I'm like, yeah, come on, man. I have no business down there other than to go see my mother. But I mobbed through there. I'm still the same me. I'll walk from the highest parts of Harlem to the lowest parts of Brooklyn. I don't care. I don't care. I'm stupid that way. At any rate, my brother, you got any closing thoughts before we wrap?
I wasn't expecting to talk about the Memphis thing, but I am glad that you brought this to my attention.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's all these conspiracy theories, these ideas that like people are like, he's secretly going to sneak his armies into all the cities and take over. It's not that complicated, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's just clean up crime.
Yeah. These cities are already occupied. So you give me a way to deal with that occupation without one more murder. So good to be back in the fanboy modeling school saddle.
It really is. It really was. Even though this was a little more serious an episode.
Yeah.
There is a lot of stuff in the entertainment world I can't wait to talk to you about next week. Hopefully the world hasn't been completely destroyed by then.
Yeah. And then also we have to talk about next week. Episode 8 would have aired by the time we do our next episode.
Right.
Earth, the sleeper hit that has single-handedly, in my opinion, saved the Alien franchise.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's utterly amazing. Can't wait to get into more details about it. It's a wonderful ride. If anyone you're listening, you're not hip to Alien Earth, check that out on Hulu. If you're a fan of the Aliens, that's Aliens, Xenomorphs and all that stuff franchise, please check this out. It's a wild ride. It's a good time. Almost every episode so far has been a banger.
Yeah, T-Oculus, my new favorite. I don't know what that thing is up to, man, but it's up to something.
Oh, man, the eye, man. It's like the craziest thing, man. It's so creepy. It's so creepy. Oh, man. And that dude, Kirsch, the android, I love that dude.
Yeah, he's definitely up to something. The Eye and Kirsch are in cahoots with each other, but I just got to say, man, I'm looking forward to Predator Badlands, man. Looking forward to Marvel Zombies. We got Blade in the...
We will have Blade in the MCU when we have a live action Blade. Don't get wild now. Don't get carried away.
No more, man. But I'm about to sound really screwed up as a human being. I didn't cry, but when I saw that trailer, I almost did.
Hirsch is not playing him, right?
I know that, but you got to remember, Blade for me is not the person playing it. It's Blade. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Shout out to Wesley Snipes, man. But anyway, folks, Tuesdays and Sundays, mic check with your boy Steve, Real Name No Gimmicks. We got some stuff to talk about this Sunday, man. Dame Dash is back in the news. I believe he just got a high-powered paying job at Revolt TV. He's making the rounds, and he's getting it in.
Can't wait. No, this is going to be a good episode, man. Can't wait to check that out. That's over on rizradio.com, of course, or the Live 365 app, or wherever digital radio is found. You can also find Burn Your Degree over on Saturdays, Sundays, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're going to get wild and funky. Probably not going to have as good an episode as my man Steve is going to have here, but all of it is a good time. Check us out on rizradio.com. This is the Fat Mantis in HD, signing off, taking off. Steve, you got anything final to say to these people?
Your boy Steve, Real Name No Gimmicks, rizradio.com, Riz Radio Live 365. We'll see you guys next time.
Ciao for now.
Fanboy modeling school.
Name or the wild